Well, look who's here. The stranger that is Monica McNutt, frankly, overdressed for this here program. We don't know what you got, where you coming from or where you going, but maybe you still in All Star Weekend mode. Maybe you still,
Maybe.
you still going through those outfits that you did not wear on the scene in Cleveland. Is that what this is? So
I
what do
mean,
we owe the
no, it's
honor?
just a little. The trend is to have a little action up here. I promise it's just a little sweater. It ain't even really that cute. I had to put some makeup on my chest because I didn't want to look not tan. So yeah, here we are.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
is that
You're not doing the show after this?
Is that the trend for the fellas too? Is that a trend for the fellas? I need to get
You
that
know
going
what,
too.
Holly? If you want a
little
little
something up
slit
top.
and you ready, I mean, why not? Do your thing.
All right.
But let's
maybe.
let's go back to Cleveland. It's so good to see you, by the way. It's been a long time.
It's good to see y'all.
Let's go back to Cleveland, where you were covering All-Star Weekend, and a big topic of conversation there was LeBron volunteering that a return to Cleveland could be in his future. And I think I saw you quoted. Did you go on Bo's podcast? You go on the right time, and
I did.
and
Hang
say
out
that you
with Bo.
thought LeBron would finish his career in Cleveland. And I want to ask you, look, maybe this has already been put out there. I'm sure it has by somebody. But as I saw it, the story blowing up, the first thing came to my mind, Monica, was why that's awfully presumptuous. Because if I'm the Cavaliers, I'm like, nah, we straight. Like, we're good. Like, I mean, you're our favorite son, and Cleveland, this is for you, and thank you for all you did. But we've moved on, and we don't need you and all that you bring with this team that's going to the playoffs without you. So if I'm the Cavaliers, I'm not interested in another LeBron James reunion. Am I tripping?
You're not tripping, but there's two things that have happened since I made those comments. One, LeBron claims he wants to finish his career as a Laker. We can only take that for face value.
Right.
But I don't think I
Sure.
would have had that thought if I had not been in Cleveland to see the reception that he has there. Like, I don't know if y'all could hear the ovation for the All-Star game. Like, they still love him. I told the little story on Bo's pod about one of the security guards that said that he's the king of Cleveland and Kobe will always be the king of LA. I think in his mind he's going to finish a Laker, but I have not heard him emphatically close that door. Now, to your point about this young core that is developing, while that is true, have you looked at LeBron James numbers this year? And so I think there will always be an argument that he will make a team better. And we often have this conversation about the balance between youth and a veteran when it comes to advancing in the playoffs and an opportunity to actually win. It will certainly cost Cleveland something, but I don't think it costs them the entire core unless he decides to do it via free agency, because he did point out when talking about his son that it wouldn't be about money. So does that become the larger play to bring him back to Cleveland?
I really appreciate you giving that inside insight, if you will. But I'm not necessarily talking about them sacrificing players to acquire him. And you're right. We take what he said at face value, that his intent is to finish with the Lakers. But as the facts change, so does everybody's opinion, right? Or so should it.
Right.
What I'm talking about is, as great as he is, there's a lot that comes with it that if anybody knows, it's the Cavaliers as an organization. So if you bring in LeBron, even at this advanced age, you're not only on his timeline and operating on his program, but you are doing things his way, whether it's from a personnel standpoint, a culture standpoint, and there may be some congruency there. I just look at it as Cleveland is doing more than okay without LeBron. It was great the first time. It was even better the second time. As much as they may still love him as a fan base, as a community, if you're the Cavaliers, build this team the way that you're building it now around Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, and don't try to get that old thing back. Let that be H-Town.
Listen, I think two things can be true. Ultimately, we know that LeBron drives revenue in many ways, and when you get a lot, so comes a lot, or heavy is the head that wears a crown, whichever analogy you want to use. I don't entirely disagree with you, Mike, but I think, like I said, I think two things can be true, and it just depends on what Dan Gilbert and those guys want to do. And LeBron, of course, obviously.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on with LeBron's current love? Now, we know the old flame. I don't think there's going to be a third time in Cleveland, but the current love, the Lakers, a lot of stories, a lot of whispering, a lot of sources say. What's really going on with the Lakers, and do you think that specifically, that LeBron was comfortable with this team being put together and now that it's kind of dissolving or disintegrating, he's trying to stand back from it? Or do you see something else?
Holly, I will tell you this. What's going on is they stink, and that's not news. That's not news, right? I do find it interesting, and not particularly in regards to the construction of this roster, but every now and again, LeBron will be like, I don't know why y'all took that way, as if we all don't have microphones and listen multiple times to things that he says to read the so-called tea leaves. I have not heard him not take responsibility, and by all accounts, Rich Paul has chimed in here or there. There's a lot that needs to be addressed there. I guess I'm most disappointed in the fact that they actually thought it was going to work. I think that Russell Westbrook has unfairly become a scapegoat in this scenario. Has he been his best self? No. But at any point in his career, has he proven to do what the Lakers allegedly wanted him to do? And supposedly yesterday, George Sedano said that they wanted him to be Dwayne Wade in his latter years. And he's just not that. We all know that LeBron has thrived when he has shooting around him. Russ was not a shooter. I just don't understand why the thought was that this was going to work. Now, I will say, somewhere in my mind, I'm like, it's these veterans that want to win. They understand the cost and the opportunity. They'll figure it out. But I think when you really get into that roster, there were not enough shooters, quite honestly. Young shooters, 3-and-D guys to support those guys figuring it out. And so here we are. I will say this. If they drop a big-time L over the weekend to the Warriors, I wouldn't be surprised, and I would almost not be mad if LeBron decided to shut it down for the rest of the year.
Yeah, look, maybe or tonight for that matter. I mean, they got the Mavericks, so we'll see if rock bottom is even lower than we thought. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you worked the sideline for the Utah-Phoenix game the other night in which the Jazz won. What was your biggest takeaway specifically about Utah? Let's get some more love to Utah, because I think we all Phoenix is the defending conference champion. We think they'll be there at the end once Chris Paul especially comes back healthy. We kind of know with Phoenix. Utah, there's still more questions. What was your biggest takeaway about the Jazz seeing them up close?
They're healthy and they're not the team that we think they are right now. I think the Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Ayton matchup was a lot of fun. Donovan Mitchell, healthy in the way that he's able to knock down threes through contact. I want to say he had 2 4-point plays in that ball game. I think health is legitimately wealth when it comes to the Utah Jazz. And we have our coaches meetings in advance. And Quinn Snyder pointed out sort of the road that they've had. And I think in their playoff runs, people forget a little bit about injuries. And not that he was making excuses, but we've not really seen the healthiest version of the Utah Jazz late into a season and deep into a playoff run. And so whether you argue about Rudy Gobert as an all-star in terms of entertainment value, there's not quite anyone in the league that does what he does defensively. I think that they've gotten quicker and a little bit more athletic. I mean, you hate to see Joe Ingles get traded, but at the same time, you look at some of those young guys that they've got, whose names I'm blanking on right now, the kid from OKC and a couple other guys, but they are willing to defend, and they have a little bit more lateral quickness and movement, which helps take some of that pressure off of Rudy Gobert. I think in the fourth quarter, when they started to make, or actually in that third quarter, when they made the adjustments and you saw them getting back defensively and pushing the ball offensively, not entirely into a set, but into good shots for them, it's kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, where is this team been?
Let's make a hard left turn from Utah to New York City, which nobody has ever said, from Utah to New York City. But really, I've heard of Monica. I've heard of teams saying, or fans saying, "Oh, it's a trade that helped both teams," and they say it, okay, not a lot of passion. But I can't remember the last time two fan bases were like, "Yeah, this is what I'm talking about." The Nets are thrilled. They got, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant coming back, Ben Simmons, if he gets over the back problem. And Philadelphia is ecstatic. They got Ben Simmons in Brooklyn, and they got James Harden. What say you? I mean, if you look at like both of these franchises, both of these teams, which one are you most impressed with?
Right this second, Philadelphia has their pieces in play. But I think big picture in terms of opening up a window, and should they be healthy this year, it's the Nets, man. Like, I think the Nets won this deal. And as much as Ben Simmons was sort of a centerpiece in this conversation, Seth Curry, y'all, Andre Drummond, who is still can be, maybe not 20 points, but can still be a 20 rebound guy. And on a good night, he could be a 20 and 20 guy. And so the Nets got better on both sides of the ball. And even their roster prior to the trade, I felt like if you could keep one of those two big three together, they were that spectacular of basketball players. Now, depending on what happens with the mandate in New York, plus, to your point, a healthy Ben Simmons if he can get past his back injury. And then Patty Mills was shooting 40%, close to 40% from three. Seth Curry shooting 40% from three. You give me all that shooting and the ability to push pace, they don't ever have to set up in a half-court set if they can get rebounds and get down the floor. And so I think for Philly, the window is going to be tighter because, knock on wood, Joel still has a history of injuries, and we don't know how this hamstring play plays out for James Harden moving forward. And so they, to me, have a tighter window to get it done and less room for error.
No, you can't do that. Hold on, you can't do that. You can't do. I'm not going to let you get away with that. I'm not going to let you get. No, what you just did.
You got a James Harden apologist. You got a Harden apologist up in here right here.
No, because I'm now overall I'm feeling the analysis as usual, Monica. However, there was a little bit of inconsistency that I need to call out. You set aside all the availability issues with the Nets. You said if healthy, if they're together. So that's Durant, that's Kyrie's unvaccinated status, and that's Ben Simmons, both physically and mentally. But then you held a history of injuries for Joel Embiid, not this year for the most part, and James Harden and his hamstring against them in making your case for the Sixers. But I just want to recap. You're saying that just on paper, everybody that the Nets got and Harden going to the Sixers, you like what the Nets have is your bottom line, is what I'm picking up. You like the Nets.
That is my bottom line. That's my bottom line, Smith. And I will say this, the bigger thing to me is the windows that are unlocked. If the Nets can't hold together and guys opt in, whatever, in the next 2 years, as constructed, right? I'm still taking the Nets. Will Philly be a great team? Yes. And that's even if everybody stays healthy. I just think it's more upside on both sides of the ball for the Nets.
Both sides is the key. Because I think I saw you say that defensively you're still skeptical about the Sixers, despite how great they look together on offense. And that's my thing. I guess I'm a Harden apologist to a certain extent. But what my analysis of the trade when it first happened was the Nets, and this is where you and I agree, Monica, the Nets got the more perfect fit in terms of what their roster needed, more shooting and a defensive stopper like Simmons and a facilitator like Simmons that doesn't need the shots that the other guys do if they're on the court. Whereas the best player in the trade, though, is that guy. The best player in the trade is James Harden. And he's shown that through 2 games.
Yeah, I still agree with you. I will say, and I mean this with the most love in my heart, one of those 2 games was versus the New York Knicks, who I was very proud of for hanging as long as they did hang. And I think the other part that has kind of been dissected is Joel Embiid isn't a set a screen, roll all the way to the basket type of guy. But in those 2 games, one of the things I found really curious, well, I've heard different folks say that he would rather pop or operate in the short corner.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That free throw line, right? But to me, as I was watching those games, James doesn't necessarily need Joel, right? Like he's working off of the pick and pop, pick and roll, pick and short roll with a bunch of those guys. And I think we are reminded, because I don't know that we've seen this version of James since first part of last season, maybe? We are reminded just how prolific he is as an offensive guy and second in the league in assists. Like he's more than willing to pass the ball.
Right. He can play with anybody, especially when he's engaged. I think you had a bit of a Freudian slip earlier, Monica, which I appreciated. Because, you said Memphis, not Memphis, but, everybody is still in awe from what we saw from Ja Morant last night. Michael and I were throwing him his flowers, throwing the rose petals at his feet earlier in the show. What was your biggest takeaway from his performance? Really, the last 2 games. It goes from a career-high 46 on Saturday against Chicago to 52 last night and a handful of season-worthy highlights.
He just will not be denied. And I love that about his personality. We all have listened to plenty of the audio from last night, but he talks about the dunk and how he just wanted revenge because he got held up in a chokehold and didn't get a call. And play to play, you can see, well, you can't necessarily see it, but play to play, I feel like he is calculating and is a guy that is not going to miss a moment or waste a possession. But I don't think that's just him. Credit Taylor Jenkins in terms of working with this young roster of plenty of talent. I think that they are one of the more deliberate young teams in the league, and that's what we're starting to see. And I just think as much as we hail his athleticism, because it is a thing of beauty, I heard y'all say it in the clips as I came in. He's a beautiful basketball player. He's a very smart basketball player. If the game dictated that, Ja, you don't get the yam on nobody's head in this game, we need you to sit out here and be the facilitator, he's capable of doing that.
All right, I know I shouldn't do this because I was talking to somebody earlier today. Zion Williamson, when he was healthy, Zion Williamson really had a terrific. I mean, he put up numbers. He's a dynamic player in his own right. What do you hear? Do you hear any whispers? Anybody pull you aside and be like, "Hey, I heard this about Zion." I'm just wondering what's going on with this young man because it's just really it's really a sad end to a season that's going to be wasted. The second season wasted.
Yeah, Holly, I think the things I've heard are probably the same things that you all have heard, that it's not solely Zion, but it is also the people around Zion. My biggest concern has been, I'm very much a person who believes you take yourself with you wherever you go. And if this is the commitment level to a small market that you may or may not want to be in, but we don't have a sample size of you in another place to go off of, can I trust that if you wind up in New York, that the commitment will suddenly be birthed and none of this becomes a question? Because to me, what is it? The best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, barring the injury. But there were things other than the injury that folks have questioned in terms of his work ethic and willingness to put in the extra hours that every pro does. I mean, you talk to anybody that's been around USA basketball, Kevin Durant is the guy, extra workouts before, after, whenever. And last time I checked, he may or may not need to do that. And so I think that there's a standard of excellence and almost a quantifiable degree of commitment that dictates sort of your star power over the course of an NBA career.
Got one more NBA question to ask, and I guess fittingly saving it for last. We've talked about Brooklyn and Brooklyn's potential. We've talked about Cleveland's present and future. Mm-hmm. We all give props to the defending champion Bucks. Talked about how unstoppable Philly is. DeMar DeRozan is in the MVP conversation and came off this historic run. See what I'm getting at? I'm just going to say me. I'm not going to say people. I'm going to say me. Am I once again guilty of sleeping on the team that's currently in first place in the Eastern Conference, and that's the Miami Heat?
I don't know if
they beat the Bulls last night.
They did beat the Bulls last night, and I will admit that I was watching that game waiting for DeMar DeRozan to touch the flame or ignite, whatever, and they never happened. So I don't think that we're sleeping on the Heat. I think that the Heat have not been healthy. And so even though the standings said one thing in folks' minds, it's like, oh, well, Jimmy's been in and out, Bam's not playing, like this is going to fluctuate, right? But now, as they are getting healthy, and I got to shout out to my DC, Maryland, and Virginia dude, Victor Oladipo, who is also on his way back soon. I think the Heat are uniquely equipped to match up with both Philly and Milwaukee, should we get to that. And I am nervous for both of those teams.
Mm-hmm. Wow. All right, here's my final question.
Okay.
And it has to do with that hat in the background. Now, I know. Listen, now it hurts, and you've got sweat equity in Georgetown. You got the game ball. I've just been a fan of Georgetown for years, a fan of Patrick Ewing as a player at Georgetown, like his whole career. And you think about the difference between last year, they made a great run, they won the Big East, and then this year, they haven't won a game. Like in the conference, it's so weird. Do you think Patrick Ewing, just simple question, do you think he will be back? Do you think he should be back as a head coach at Georgetown?
I will be honest with you, Holly. It's hard for me to separate my heart from my head on this one because Big Pat is my dude. Like, went to school with Lil Pat. I do think that he should have the opportunity to right this ship, and the Big East championship last year should buy him some cachet. However, something has to give, which is not breaking news, right? I'm not sure if there's going to have to be changes on his staff, But the connective tissue, and to be fair, this is not just a Patrick Ewing thing. The connective tissue that allowed Georgetown to tap into that area in terms of its recruiting base, right now that tissue is connected to Villanova, and that literally makes me sick. And so however that gets fixed, between being able to tap into the area that is Georgetown's backyard and the transfer portal as a positive and not just guys that are leaving the program and going on to be pretty successful, something's got to give. And so I would like to see Big Pat back. I do think that there probably have to be some changes made to his staff to create or reestablish that pipeline. And that may not be a one-year deal, but you can't not win. It's a results-driven industry. It's very simple, and it hurts my heart.
Yo, on the way out,
Right.
want to get your take. Did you see this story about the Liberty being fined $500,000, which was reduced from $1 million on appeal, for having the nerve to charter flights in violation of the collective bargaining agreement? And I put this in the category of what I like to call doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. Now, other organizations think they didn't get a bad enough penalty. I'm like, the problem is that we're not chartering flights for the WNBA. Is this just a revenue issue?
Correct.
Or is there something deeper going on here, Monica?
I do know that when the current CBA was negotiated, there was lots of praise around the WNBA. Shout out to Nneka Ogwumike and her role as a leader there. A lot of that hinged on the hotel rooms when traveling and the support for working moms, new moms, working moms. The two are sort of the same. This issue has been lingering for a while. I know that the Las Vegas Raiders owner and the Las Vegas Aces owner, whose name is escaping me at the moment, also wanted to put his team on a charter plane, but did not do it because of the CBA. It's hard to say, y'all, because we know the nature of a protest or resistance is that you're going to get in trouble. But it's hard to say if this is going to get the result that the Liberty and the rest of the league may want, because the CBA is defined for a certain amount of time. And we know that this will be one of the top issues come the next CBA. But I will say this, if I was a player on another team, if I got stuff to do and work through my legs when I touch down for this game, so do y'all. Like, I hear where you're coming from, but we not going, no.
Liz Cabbage brought attention to it. She's like, so wait a second, Becky Hammond getting $1 million, but I gotta pay for my own upgrade. I mean, it's just something wrong with that picture. And I see the Liberty getting fined. Right. I'm like, bravo, something wrong with that picture. Yeah. Monica, we appreciate you. You got another show to do, obviously. Keep making history. Keep making history year round.
Before I get out of here, this is the last time I've been on the show since, I don't know, this is my first time this year? Maybe.
Been a grip.
I have to shout out y'all. Super Bowl. We love to see it. You guys both killed it. I mean, the whole energy, your colleague Maria Taylor, the whole energy. I was like, yes, look at my people. Look at my people. So y'all look great. I'm sure you had a blast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the love. Thanks for blessing the show. We miss you.
I was trying to do my best, Monica McNutt. Okay, how will Monica do it? How she hold this mic? I'm gonna hold the mic like Monica do it.
Get some holes in your shirt, Holly. You can get some holes in your shirt.
Oh yeah.
Nah.
I'm gonna work on that.
That wouldn't work for me. That wouldn't work for me. You can have that. My wardrobe is exactly what it should be.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.